This is a review of the in-class clip and buckle that we did for a project. We're going to start with a sketch and pick the what would be the top plane. We have our sketch palette available. Everything should be okay to start with. Let's see, I'm going to check my units real quick. Right now my units are in inches. We did everything in metric, so I'm going to switch that real quick. So since I hadn't changed that in the preferences, I want to stay at least a little consistent. We're going to go into the rectangle, and my numbers may not match exactly, but will be pretty close. So 50 by 25. And then I want to make a midpoint. So I have the triangle from the origin to the line. And then let's just right click and hit OK, or we can do escape. I'm going to pull that dimension out of my way. And the constraints are pretty big there, so I'm going to turn the constraints off and create another rectangle. And we'll just make it the same size, except that we need to be a little bit smaller. Okay, and then it's going to show up in blue. I want a construction line, and it will go from midpoint over to the origin. And if it stays in blue, I'm just going to hit escape to clear out of that. If it stays in blue, then that just means it hasn't gotten the horizontal or vertical. All right, it's still able to move, let's see here, side to side. And so I need to think about what I want for engagement. We'll go into the dimension and set it up for halfway 25. And you can vary these numbers any way that you want to go. The line type, then I'm going to switch back to from construction. I'll turn that off. In our arc, we're going to do the little finger clips. So we're going to create an arc, 3-point arc, center point arc. The centers would be kind of far off the screen. There is no endpoint to do a tangent arc. So the 3-point arc, you're going to look for coincident, drag out some distance, and then go for coincident, and then place the arc. And then what we discovered was putting the dimensions and that looks pretty big, so I'm just going to double click on those and change them to 4, which is I think what we did. And then our numbers, let's go up to 12, which will flatten it out a little bit. Can escape, and I want to go into mirror the object. Let's move this out a little bit where we can see it. The object to mirror is the arc, the mirror line is the center line, and you hit OK. Alright, so now that we've got our sketch in place, this is going to be the layout. This would probably be a good time to save and finish the sketch. And we go ahead and save. We need a location. So this is going to be project. And then we are at the top level, and we're going to start creating components. Now, the other thing of note is that I could have done this first sketch and then closed it, opened up another sketch, and had sketches that I could switch between. I think it's just easier to see those together, and it's not that much more complicated. But if it got too much more complicated, we would probably have two separate sketches there. So in the assembly, I want a new component, and it's going to be standard. Component 1, we'll do the clip side. Well, no, well, one's got to be the buckle and one's got to be the clip. So we're going to go ahead and hit OK. And we can start projecting geometry. Now we can use these sketches directly, and but having local sketches to work from is usually a better choice. So I am in the buckle. I need to tell it where I'm going to sketch. And I didn't see the project there was what I was looking for. So project and include. So the project will grab the objects and pretty much just everything at this point. Or I could have drawn a rectangle from corner to corner, and the relations would have kind of done the same thing. So we're going to extrude. We'll go ahead and finish this sketch. And then I want to extrude. And since we didn't rotate, I'm going to go up to the upper right corner, kind of move this around so I can see it. Have the selected profiles. All right, let's see the sketch. And it's kind of making sure that I'm picking and did I not close that off? Let's go back and edit that sketch real quick. All right, and anytime that I want to verify the sketches at the top level, yeah, I think it's just trying to pick the other geometry. So be aware that, like I said, we can build off of that geometry, but I do like to have a little more control over the local. So we're going to go 5 millimeters in the up. If I tell it to go 2 sides, then the other one will be 1 millimeter. Okay, and then our new sketch. And I want to pick, let's see, go into project. Okay, did find the one that I selected. We'll pick those and hit OK so that it becomes, and our lines and arcs. So the object lines will be in black. The projected lines will be in pink. And again, we can go back and hide and show the sketches as we need them. And back into the orbit so that we can see our geometry. And we will cut extrude. Finish the sketch, extrude. Need to make sure that we're telling it to cut. And this will be a distance once we tell it what we're going to use. And our thickness is 5 millimeters. So one of the advantages of being in kind of this isometric view is I don't see the preview. Then I can switch the direction by putting in a negative sign, hitting OK. All right, so our geometry is there. I did this a little different. I forgot my my rectangles, the notch out. So if we did this out of order, no, we'll adjust. So the sketch and I'm not quite sure where I want my rectangles to be to make the cut. Escape, construction line, and I'm just going to go from midpoint to the origin again. And the advantage of the mirror is that I'm drawing this once, and if I change it on one side, we have the geometry for the other. So I think we left those. Oh, I keep going over to mirror. I'm looking for dimension. All right, so I want that to be 12 millimeters, and we'll put 5 millimeters in there, and the depth. Um, let's see, 8 actually looks pretty good for being able to engage. All right, finish the sketch, and then this becomes another cut. All right, so not a new body, cut. The profile will be, well, since it sees the overlap there, and the extent will be going to all. Since it is going up again, we're going to flip and put the geometry in. All right, and then the fillets, we have these couple of places. So if I go to the fillet, now let's see what 2 millimeters looks like. And if I grab the face, let's see, that's not wanting to cooperate on those. Oh, probably shouldn't have hit enter there. All right, so no fillet. Oh, it did put one in there. Okay, usually it will show. All right, so we'll have to come back to the features. So as we go through, sketch, extrude, sketch, extrude, or cut, sketch, extrude, cut. And there's my fillet. So just off the screen, I'm editing the feature. And I'm still not getting that acting as a selection very well. So let's see if we can add. Okay. So if I hit, I guess it would help to tell that it's also 2 meters. Maybe not 2 meters. Okay, those look pretty close to the same. And what I was looking for was to get these selected. Seems like there's more geometry there, so. Okay, so it'll let me have that. I'm going to hold down the control button this time since it's letting me select. And look for those geometries. And we'll add another fillet, 6 edges, see if 2 millimeters will stay in those. All right, so we have one fillet item, and I kind of like to keep them in the same group, but it's not quite cooperating. So let's go fillet, stay with the select, rotate around. And let's see, F6 to go back to fit. See if I can find these inside edges. And we'll just stay with the 2mm, but gives it the opportunity to change those sizes if we need to. All right, so that component is close enough for now. We'll go back and revisit here in a little bit. We're going to switch back to the clip. If I add the clip while the buckle is active, then it becomes a subcomponent in the buckle rather than in the top level. So set up for the clip. Oh, and let's see the origins. Let's go ahead and open up the sketch. I'm going to hide the buckle for now. We are going to want to, and I think I did the clip first, so that was a little bit of a difference, of a change. All right, so we're in the sketch. I want to pull the geometry to project, and go into project, 5 selected. Might as well go ahead and bring that one in as well. And again, rotating over just a little bit. So if we were successful in going 1mm down, and then we can go 5mm up. The other thing that we did was adding a slot to actually create our relief in the center. So if I find that midpoint, come out some distance, and we had to pick a number, 10mm, and then its length. So this arc is in blue, and then its length, let's go 16. And we can finish the sketch at this point, and that should give us enough that when we tell it to do the extrude, because we're in a new component, and picking that actually got everything that I wanted it. So otherwise I would have had to go through and just pick some of the regions, but that looks pretty thin. So we'll see what we get. So I'm going to try and do the fillets in one group this time. I think they will all go in at, if I pick those vertical edges, we'll see what we get at 2mm. Okay, it looks pretty good. And we'll go back to the top. All right, so if you want to run the simulation, this is where we could switch over. Now the other thing is, because I made these 2mm, we do need to double check that it will fit into the buckle. So when I look at this geometry, it's pretty close. There's not a lot of clearance there. So that would be one that we would have to decide on. So I started to say the simulation, if you want to run, we go into design, set up the simulation, have our fixed point, our 2 loads, vary the loads a little bit, see how much deflection, factors of safety, all of that we would get. Okay, so what do we have in the way of modify? Just doing a quick check. All right, so thinking through our process here. we need to come up with a lid, and if I print this, this is going to be a bridge. And the problem with the bridge is that unless we have support material, it's not going to span. So we can make the assumption that it is going to have support material. I'm going to switch back to the top level component real quick, and we'll hide the sketches. So what we didn't get to in the class, pretty much if we put a lid, we could super glue and attach it that way. There's not really um, too much in the way of clearances. So if our first print doesn't want to go together because this is a line to line, then I would say we need to go back into the clip and maybe on this body, edit that feature, and if we were to make it 4.9, each 0.1, I have to do the conversion. Each 0.1 is about 4 thousandths, so maybe we'll go to 4.8 millimeters. And that was a new body, so that's just a little bit lower now. And we'll go back into the main. So let's see what happens with putting a lid. If we just want to see how this interacts, this would be fine. There's nothing that requires that I put a lid on at this point in the project. If we're just doing a discovery, this will print in half an hour. This one will print in half an hour. And if I want to put a lid on I would probably still go into the new component and hit OK. We'll open up a sketch. I do want to make sure that I'm on that top, and then we can create our geometry, go into the rectangle, and probably not that one. Let's escape, and then we'll remove. Let's see, it got a couple of coincidences there. So which one? Well, let me just Control Z. I'm not sure which relations I needed to go to that corner anyway, so should be able to finish the sketch. And then we'll extrude that up one millimeter. All right, so based on what it's selecting, if I want just that sketch, interesting that it's still finding those. All right, I do want both of those, and we'll go up 1 millimeter to cover it, and this it will be a new body. So we can look at those intersections. I'm still in that component, which is why everything's transparent, and that would give us a start. So one of the other considerations would be when we go to print this, these don't have any fillets, and it's easier to pull it up off of the platter if there is some geometry there for the to kind of get a make that active, to get a scraper or razor blade or something underneath it to pry it up with. So if I were to go with a point 0.5, that looks pretty good. And so 0.5 millimeter would translate to about 20 thousandths, and it would also help with the flashing, the geometry that is kind of created from the build. All right, so on the lid, looks like I forgot that one, so let's activate it. Still don't have the notch there. Could make it so that that's becomes the bottom, and we're going to mount and be able to run that. Another step. So we have the sketch and edit the sketch. So if I want to use the sketch from the buckle, see if I can find that geometry. We'll hide the clip and can see the tangle there. Could also hide the bodies would help. All right, so go into P, the 6 selected items, finish the sketch. If I go back and edit the feature, then we had the 4 items selected. I can clear those out. And make sure that I'm generating that geometry. So pick the region. Okay, well, let's go ahead and accept that. And then our fillets. A lot of selections. Hold down the control button, rotate over, and we'll go into the fillet, set our 2 millimeters, hit OK. Okay, back to the isometric, and we kind of go back through. Want to make sure to show the body for the part, show the clip. And so there's a component level show, a body level show, a sketch level show, and we can manage those to get to whatever we need to see. All right, so just finishing up real quick. If I want to print this whole thing, it's not usually most 3D printers, you're better off printing these individually. The size-wise, we could print all 3 of these at the same time, putting them on the platter and telling it to print. But we're probably going to be better off sending these out as individual units. So if I highlight the lid and then do a export, and we're going to tell this either 3MF or STL. New version will be saved before exporting. It's going to send it out to my downloads, which is fine. So it will give me the notification. Oh, that's the updates. It will tell me the status. All right, so that can just kind of keep running in the background. We'll do the same thing for the clip. So that one went, well, I'll have to double check. It might have gone ahead and sent everything out, but since that was an STL, let's see, we'll have to find a viewer. I don't think I have a slicer on it. So if you have a repertoire or a Cura slicer on your machine, then you could go ahead and open that. So I may have to switch over to my laptop to talk a little bit more about that process. All right, well, this will kind of walk through the sketch, and we'll finish up this one, and I'll have some additions to refine this this geometry.